Well, hi everybody. Welcome to our week 3 feedback video, coming to you a day early because of our, I guess you'd say, kind of pointless public holiday, Craig. We've got an AFL final public holiday, a football final public holiday for anyone that's not Australian.
That's right. Look, Melbourne is such a wonderful place. There aren't too many cities in the world that have a public holiday for a football game, a horse race. But in Melbourne, yep, we
Yep.
really know what we put first in terms of our
What are you
values.
going to be doing tomorrow, Craig? Sitting at home and isolating? Yeah. So you'll notice if you're astute that Craig's in his Richmond colours. That's Richmond's a team that's been killing it recently. I'm a Collingwood fan. I actually don't own any merch, but if you know anything at all about Collingwood, you'll know that my bandit mask here kind of, fits the vibe.
Yeah,
So,
well, black and white. Now,
black.
Richmond is a great mindfulness story too. I mean, apart from being a fourth generation Richmond supporter, but yeah, they took up mindfulness. I was invited to launch the mindfulness initiative at Richmond, work with the Richmond club psychologists back a few years ago, and they've gone from being the most unsuccessful team for about 35 years to now, for 4 years, been the most successful team. And it's the mental side of the game. I haven't had an ongoing role in the process. Just sort of helped to launch it, but they've done a fantastic job with it. And this was the jumper that was given to me as a little thank you for that contribution.
Very nice. Proud Tigers fan over there.
I
Yeah.
hope I don't have to practice too much letting go and acceptance of the grand final. I'd like to practice a little bit more savouring, perhaps.
But speaking about a mental game, Craig, the problem that Richmond had before they started practicing mindfulness is that their mind wandered off into default mode and they were getting too worried about the outcome of matches, or they were dwelling on mistakes that they'd made. And what mindfulness helps elite performers like the football clubs do is to stay focused, keep your eye on the ball, keep your attention focused on the game. And that's what started to improve their performance.
Yeah, and to be accepting of mistakes or errors that happen. You acknowledge them, you learn something from them, but you move on, get your attention back on the
Yeah.
ball. And it's done a fantastic job with it. But
Yeah.
a lot of elite athletes do.
Yeah, that's right. Most elite athletes now, I think, using mindfulness for that. But not just elite athletes. Like this is relevant to everybody. And as our learners noticed this week, that this idea that we're distracted half the time. I mean, at least half the time, anyway.
Mm.
It was really interesting because some of the learners started to question the science behind that. Like asking questions like, well, this study by Killingsworth and Gilbert was done on iPhones, and does that bias the data? And I mean, you got to look back in context, right? 2010, when the study was made, was the first time that the Android devices actually became more popular than iPhone. So it makes sense that it was an iPhone app. And there was no control group because actually there were 4 groups in the study. They basically asked people, right now, are you paying attention? Are you daydreaming about unpleasant things, daydreaming about pleasant things, or daydreaming about neutral things? And who is the happiest overall? So they looked at all 4 groups, and the people that were paying attention were the happier ones because they weren't caught up in all that negative thinking and they were just more present.
Yeah, and mind you, when when the mind was wandering to pleasant topics, people were just marginally more happy than average, and marginally less when it was wandering to neutral topics, and significantly less happy when it was wandering to negative topics. But happiest when, and it didn't matter doing the dishes or anything else, if the attention was just on what they're doing, people are at their happiest. And it kind of confounds things because we kind of think, oh, I'm happiest when off with a pleasant daydream. Now, I suppose one of the things that happens being in default mood, the wandering mind, if you like, but when we're not mindful, we don't realize we're doing it. And the mind wanders into something pleasant one moment, but while we're in wandering mode, next thing we've wandered into something really negative, negative self talk and so on.
Yep.
So we don't realize we're doing it. And we don't have the capacity to switch out of it when we need to. And we also, when we're not mindful, take imagination to be real. And so we're living in what appears to be a real world, which is only a world that we're projecting in our own mind. And to lose that groundedness in reality, I think, leaves people very vulnerable. So, yeah, the pleasant daydreams can be pleasant and everything else, but,
Yeah,
and
and the creativity as well. It's not that default mode's bad. I mean,
yeah,
it's the basis of what's called time travel, not the real time travel, the awesome one, but the one where you imagine the future and remember the past, and that's very useful. It's the basis of language and being able to plan and remember, and it's fantastic. And of course, sometimes we have creative insights when we're daydreaming. but it does come with an emotional cost because we do trigger the default mode. We do trigger the stress response when we're worrying and dwelling and judging and reacting to things. And that's what starts to cause us problems, as well as, of course, just not being fully focused on the conversation we're having, not connecting fully with the person in front of us, or not focusing on the task and not getting it done efficiently.
And when we're using those default circuits well, then the executive functioning circuits are switched on at the same time, which gives us the ability to see which are the good creative ideas, which are rubbish, which ones to give attention to, which ones to leave alone, what's imagination, what's not. A question about conscious and unconscious came up as well. And for me, looking at it from a mindfulness perspective, the difference between those two things is whether the lights are on or not. So if you go into a room and it's all dark, well, everything's unconscious. Everything's there, but we can't see it. You get in and you turn the lights on, all of a sudden we start to see stuff. It becomes conscious. It's not like something new is there. It's just that what we couldn't see one moment, we can see the next. So when we develop mindfulness, a lot of what was unconscious starts to become more conscious. Bit by bit, moment by moment, we learn to work with it. But it's not like it's some different world. It's just the unconscious world, I suppose, is a world that we're not even aware is there, even though it's there.
That's right. And we create so much of our stress with those unconscious mental habits. And that's where those big four practices come in. And that's where just observing our mind throughout the day helps us to see how we're creating a lot of the stress that we experience in our own minds.
Yeah, and it sort of leads into the next point of some people were noticing that you can hear a phone call, COVID, a lot of stress around at the moment, bang, triggers a reaction or a response. And we won't necessarily see what was the thinking, what were the attitude, what did the mind instantaneously project into the future that turned the sound of a phone into a major stressor. Whereas when we become more mindful, we kind of slow down, we kind of see a little bit more of what happens. The thing goes, and we notice the mind flashes some catastrophe in our head, bang, the body reacts. So those unconscious reactions and triggers start to become conscious, which gives us the opportunity to start to free ourselves from them, not to be dominated by them.
Yeah, and of course, it's not to discount the very real challenges that people are facing around the world right now because of COVID and everything else that's going on. But it does help us to see that, as you said, it's the reactions that we have to them. That's what makes us feel tense. That's what's creating a lot of the suffering. And it's not that mindfulness is about just allowing everything to be the way it is, and like you shouldn't have any more suffering even if you're homeless or unwell or something like that. That's not the case. But it's the reaction on top of that that's making things even worse. So when we can step out of that, we can also address the situations much more effectively, can't we, Craig?
Yes, and a lot of our learners were noticing, well, it's easy to let go of the small stuff, but what about the big stuff? And I've worked a lot with cancer support groups, for example, and people confronted with, really life-threatening diagnoses. And these kinds of practices are tremendously helpful. And it doesn't mean that you sit down and you practice some mindfulness, the cancer all goes away. I mean, it seems to be able to help people to cope better and the body to work better, etc. But ultimately, there are big things in life, like life itself, and just because we're mindful doesn't mean the body ceases to be mortal. But to see people go from intense fear and so on to a process of being able to accept. And accept doesn't mean resignation and giving up, but just to accept that, life happens, changes how the person experiences those events enormously. From being something incredibly adverse to all of a sudden life having a kind of a richness and a sort of a treasuring what's there. So people actually treasure life more through this kind of acceptance and ability to let go, because ultimately we do have to let go of things that we started accumulating from the day we were born. We have to let them go again.
I like the internet meme, relax, nothing is under control. So I apply that to my own life on a regular basis these days, Craig. It's great. So look, there's so much that came up in the discussion forums. Obviously we can't touch on everything, but some really great stuff today. So thanks to all of the learners who've been having these conversations. Thank you for supporting one another, for offering your genuine reflections on your own experience. So please keep doing that. Next week, we're just going to start to look at how we can continue this mindfulness journey after the course finishes. So mindfulness as a way of life, bringing it to everyday activities like eating and things like that. Also introducing a longer meditation. We've noticed a lot of our learners as well have started to purchase the optional upgrade, or some even getting the unlimited membership, which is fantastic, because then, of course, you can access these materials long after the course is finished. But yeah, so keep the conversation going, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Go Richmond.
Go Pies. I mean Cats. I mean Tigers. Whoever.